He's gonna die. He's gonna fight me. He's something like me. He thinks he's awesome.
Hey everybody, this is me, the Undead Viking, and I'm here to talk to you about a game called Fortresses and Clans. So here is a clan leader, and here is a fortress. I don't have a game box, I do apologize. This is a prototype that I was sent by the Red Joker, which is the publisher of this game. This is a game in which two people are going to be fighting each other, and each person is going to run a clan, and I don't know how it happened, but somehow both of these clans managed to build a giant fortress, a giant castle, like right next to each other without either of them knowing. Or maybe they were like really good buddies for like a really long time, and then all of a sudden something happened and both of them got really upset with each other. But anyway, so now they both have these walls that you're going to be putting troops and siege engines on, and you are going to have like a battlefield in the middle where everybody's going to be fighting and duking it out and trying to basically storm the castle and kill the clan leader that's within. The game takes about maybe 45 minutes to an hour to play out, depending upon how tough you want the game to be. It does have some variable processes you can do as far as like the sturdiness of the walls and the sturdiness of the keep and what have you. And it has some wonderful drafting mechanisms and some wonderful timing mechanism as well. But let me show you how the game is played, and then we'll come back here and I'll talk to you more about fortresses and clans. So here we have tribes at war, and I do apologize, I can't show you everything. It takes up a little bit of real estate, mostly because you have these large tiles here that are representing the different walls of your castle. And just basically what you see here, this is the keep, this is your clan leader, and the two bits that you can't see over here are the exact same thing, the keep and the clan leader for the opposition. Now, this is a very unique game in which the fact that, yes, each clan or tribe, if you will, has their own like main leader that have like special powers. So like here you have like, you know, pretty cool art also, I should mention, but here's Calvin Sixth. During an assault, your officer has force +1. Just basically that's just a thing that, you know, breaks the rules kind of thing. If you play games with variable player powers, you're probably very familiar with that. Here we have Morgan Ray. If you're the defender at the beginning of a turn, draw 7 cards instead of 6, and then place 2 of them. So a little special power as far as her defense ability. Now, each player also gets these clan leaders that they have. You get 6 of these. They each have little special powers, and so you can tell which clan they are. This is, you know, you can see like the same clan symbol as that little wolf there. And so each one of these, and you'll be using these as an action to activate the different forces that you're going to be placing out onto the different locations that you have that are going to be protecting your keep. So each one of these has, you know, these 4 locations that you're going to be placing people. You can see there's denotations for these little gears and a little helmet. The helmet is for your ground forces, and these gears are for your siege engines, and so you have to be able to place them. Now, when these get destroyed, and depending upon how long you want the game to be, you're going to determine how much strength these particular walls have. Pretty common is 4. When they get destroyed, you turn them over, and you can see this is obviously breached, and now the two, you know, the 2 troops or whatever are down here, but there's no spots for siege engines anymore. Now, the whole point of the game is that you're trying to knock down 2 of these in a row and get them over to the breach side, like so. And when that's done, then the keep is available to be assaulted at that point. And if you can assault the keep and destroy the forces that are within the keep, then you can go ahead and take out the leader of the tribe that you're fighting against. So how you do this? Well, there's 2 integral parts. Basically, you're going to need to get troops and siege engines onto these different locations in front of you, and then you're going to have to do attacks. Now, there's 2 main aspects to this game as far as that is concerned. One, you get this giant deck of these cards that are going to have the siege engines and the troops and what have you, that everybody has access to. All of them are the same. Now, like, you know, the clan leaders for this group, for this leader, are different than this one as well, so that it's an asymmetrical thing as far as the special powers and abilities that they have. But all of the troops and the siege engines are exactly the same. They're going to have the same powers, and everybody's going to know what you have. And the cool thing is that you actually get these via draft. Now, before I go into as far as how the drafting process goes, one of the big things about this game is the timing. The timing of the game is basically whoever is like behind in the time, I'll explain that in just a little bit, gets to be the attacker for that phase. As soon as that person overtakes the other person, then that person gets to be the attacker, and then the other person defends, obviously. Now, here's how this works. I don't have the actual time track, so I've just used a d20. So you start off even, you determine randomly who's going to go first, and you start doing that. When you do your attacks, you're going to add a time tracker. So like if blue attacked first, and let's say like they used 4 hours, I would take this 1, and I would turn it to the 5, like so. Now, the other person would get to go and be the attacker. And so you can't, it's possible to do a little bit of damage, you know, like with siege engines and stuff to the other person, but mostly the person that's attacking is the one that's going to be taking things down. So if they're able to do an attack, and they only do, like, take 2 hours, and so, like, they go to, of course, now I can't find the 3. Well, let's just say they did 1 attack, and it went to, like, a 4. They wouldn't have overtaken me, so then they'd get to attack again, and then when they attack again, maybe then, you know, they go to a 7 or something like that, and then it would be my turn. So that's a very important part of the game where, as far as the timing goes between the 2 attacks, keeping track of that. Alright, so the other thing is that the person, as far as the drafting goes, you're going to draw cards at the top of the deck. I'm going to show you some of these cards here in just a second. But what it is that you draw 6 cards, and the defender draws the cards first. The defender will pick one of those cards and put it face down in front of them. So if they pick this card, they put it face down in front of them. They hand the other 5 cards to the attacker. The attacker then picks 3 of those cards, and then you discard the other 2. And then the attacker places their attackers where they want to place them, and then the defender takes their card, reveals it, and then places it in response to where the attacker has placed their particular attack, their units. Now, so that actually adds in a huge thing, because basically the defender gets to see what the options are that the attacker is going to be using, which is an awesome aspect of the game. So they're kind of thinking, and then the defender gets to pick something that, you know, hopefully, you know, will counteract theoretically what the other person is going to be picking. So if I picked, like, as the defender, you know, like, here, I'll just show you some of these cards here quickly. So like there's the officer, and these, you know, actually have a little thing like that. That's obviously a unit, and this is obviously a siege engine. So, like, add 1 force point to all the soldiers in the officer's assault area. So, I mean, that he doesn't actually have any force ability himself, but, like, if he has any soldiers in his location, they would. Now, here's a soldier. A soldier is just basic. They don't have anything, but they do have 1 force. But if they had this officer with them at the same time, then you would add 1 to that. Pretty simple, right? But then you get into other things, like here's a banner. When the banner moves, you can reorganize the other troops in its assault area. So you can, you know, obviously gives you some mobility there as far as that is concerned. Archers, if you spend an hour, so this is something how you'd spend, you know, some of your time that I was representing with those d20s. When the archers move, destroy an opponent's card on the wall or their breach that they are attacking. So there's but you have to spend extra time to do that. So you have these different abilities and different powers there. Now, the siege engines, like here's a ballista, during the shooting phase, and that's done before the assault phase. The shooting phase, a ballista can destroy a card in the opponent's assault area instead of dealing -1 structure token. -1 structure tokens basically allow you to weaken the defenses, like you could probably expect from a siege engine, before you actually, you know, go and attack it. But I'll talk more about that in just a little bit. And so then you have these different options available to you. So if I, as the defender, like I said, okay, you know what, you know, I'm going to go ahead and place, you know, this, I took a ballista, you know, I'm going to put that down there. And then as my opponent, or whatever, like they, you know, let's give them that soldier, that officer, and let's give them like a catapult as well here. So like you know, a basic catapult. So those are the 3 cards, and then they discarded the other ones. So then what happens is that you turn these cards over, and let's just say you place them here. And so, oh, and I forgot to mention one other thing. you do get like 4 cards each on the keep at the very beginning of the game. And those cards can be swapped in and out from the cards that you get to pick when you draft. So you have a little bit, like if you do get crummy cards and you don't have a good card to defend, you can place a card onto your keep and then replace it with one of the 4 cards that you have there. And then so you have some options. And also, if you want to, you can take a card off the keep and move it into your attack areas, but you can never get that card back on the keep. So you're weakening the keep for the rest of the game by doing so. So I mean, just something also that you can do. But anyway, so then you reveal, and so like we put a soldier there, and then let's put an officer here, and then our catapult here. And so then in response, if the player goes, okay, well I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my ballista there in response to if you're going to attack here. Now, here's where it gets a little tricky. So, theoretically, as the game progresses, you're going to have units all over, right? So, when you decide to activate your attacks, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be taking a clan leader. And you're going to, like, their special powers. So, like, here's Edwin Sixt. Target an assault area for each troop in it. Destroy all opponents' cards in the corresponding column. And that'll make sense here when I talk about the assault area here in just a little bit. Target 2 of your own troop cards on your walls or breaches. Place them in 1 or 2 of your assault areas. So, like, little special abilities. Marla Wall, the Foxy. Replace all or part of your army cards on your own walls. So like you can just go ahead and replace it. And then it says dungeon, including dungeon means your keep, basically. So you're going to take one of these and you're going to get your special ability. What you're going to do is you're going to basically say I'm activating either this row, or one of these 3 columns. So you have 5 options. And once you use them, the clan leaders do it. So let's say I activate this column. So I'm just going to place this person down here and say I'm activating this column. That leader will stay out there until I call them all back. Now, you can call them back early, and that costs you time, or you can wait till all 5 spots have been filled. Like, so you've used like a soldier in each one of these leaders in each one of these locations. And then you get to call them back for free. You can call them all back into your hand for free, and it doesn't cost you any extra time to do so. So that's something also, like if you really wanted a leader that would have done you really well, you can get the option of getting them back early at the cost of your time. And the time thing really matters a lot as far as being able to be on the offensive instead of just taking shots and dealing damage. But anyway, so if you decide you're going to attack, so like if you attacked with all 3 of these, you're going to call them. And remember, there's going to be here too, and you can attack with those as well. But if you decided to attack with all 3 of these, well, what happened is that would be 3 hours. Because basically, for every one you're picking, you're going to move up on the time 1 hour to do so. And a lot of times you're not going to want to do that because of the fact that you want to keep some reserve to defend or whatever. But if you did all 3, what happens then is that the first thing that happens is you do your siege engine. And the siege engine just goes off and you go ahead and you place a token on there, basically reducing the power of that particular area right there. And then what happens is that if there is a siege engine in the spot that you're attacking, they are allowed to respond 1 time. So if I had 2 siege engines in this location, I mean, like I had this trebuchet as well, I could do 2 damage, and then the one, even if he had, like, let's do it this way. Let's say I had a trebuchet here and that catapult. I wouldn't be able to respond twice. I can only respond once. So I could do damage back. And that's also one of those things, too, where it's like, you might not want to attack a location that has a, one of these, a siege engine on it because of the fact that you don't want to take the damage back, right? All right, anyway, so after that happens, what you do is you move the troops that you activated. They leave their location and they go into the middle. And this normally would be a wider location, so either side would be able to have their cards in that spot. Now they've moved into what's called the assault area. Now they'll be fighting, and they can both fight and defend. Now, if the defender had units in there, let me just grab like a soldier or something here. So let's say the defender, and let me just move this back slightly. So let's say that we had 1 soldier, and then they were in here, so they move forward, and now they're going to have their battle. So what happens is that you just compare the forces of the situation. And it's on a one-for-one basis. So in this case, you have an officer, it has the soldiers, that increases their force to 2. This is a 1, so that would destroy the soldier, and there would be 1 left that would affect this particular this location here. Now that wouldn't be enough to destroy it because of the fact that it has a strength of 4. But let's just say, like, for example, let's actually just turn around and put this soldier here, and just say, and there was no defense there. There was just so we'd have an attack with this officer. Both of these have 1, but you increase them by 1 each. So it would have a total of 4. The fact that it already took a damage actually makes it a 3 anyway, so then we would destroy that, and both these siege engines would be destroyed on that location, and then we'd flip it over, and we'd have a breach. And now, as you notice, they would only be able to put these particular locations, or fill those locations with defenders. Now, the cool thing is, I just want to show you one of these units here. Let me find one. I thought I put one aside. Yeah, so here, this is kind of cool. So defenders, when they're fighting in one of your breaches, like, which is that defenders have 2 force points instead of 1. So defenders are the kind of card that you keep on your keep, and then you swap it out later so you can go ahead and put them in there because they are awesome at defending those particular locations. So the game just basically runs like that. Each person goes through their process of attacks. As soon as it's the other person's turn to attack, they do the same thing. Remember, you're always doing that draft of drawing 6 cards. Defender picks 1, hands the rest, the attacker picks 3. And so there is, you'd think at that point that, like, the defender, like, you know, man, they only get 1 card. But you got to remember that the attacker, you know, gets all those cards, but more often than not, you know, they're attacking, and if they use up all of their attack cards to attack, all of a sudden it's the defender's turn. They have access to all the cards at that point, and now they're able, and possibly because you activated all those cards or what have you, you don't have anybody defending your walls or defending your keep, and then person can run roughshod in and go ahead and take out the keep. Once you have an open 2 breaches like that, you're able to attack the keep. If hopefully there's defense there. If there isn't, then you're able to go ahead and destroy the opponent's keep and win the game. I like the game a lot. There's a lot going on. I only had access to 2 of the tribes or whatever. There's going to be plenty more of those and a lot more cards. I'm really excited to see what this game is going to have as far as the options and as far as the variability once it gets published. But right as this base game that I had right here, I had a ton of fun. But let me talk more about that in my conclusion. Alright, thank you very much for sitting through the how-to as far as Fortresses and Clans go. I do apologize that I didn't have access to all of the information. As I said, this was a prototype that I was sent. The artwork that I got was fantastic, and as far as I know, it's going to stay pretty much the same. Like I said, I'm really looking forward to seeing what the other clans have as far as their different leaders and what their abilities are and what have you. Now, the game, as I said, is fairly straightforward as far as the mechanisms go, but I do feel there is that wonderful timing mechanism. Now, I could talk about drafting and what have you. I love games with card drafting. I've always loved card drafting as a mechanism within games, so I knew I was going to like that. But if you've played games with a timing mechanic, you know, sometimes like you'll run into a game like Glenmore, or you run into I'm horrible, Kraftwagen, you know, things like that, which are wonderful timing mechanisms. Same kind of deal. Where do I take like a weaker action but get more weaker actions to build up to like a better action type of thing, and I like that. And this was a neat spin on that with the whole aspect of, and kind of maybe a little bit like Thebes, if you ever played that game, kind of an older game, but kind of a spin on that where, you know, can I do some just weak attacking at this point? You know, just kind of to just kind of, you know, little jabs or whatever, and then like maybe cash in with a big giant attack or something like that, which is a completely viable and very good tactic to use. Now, as the defender or as the attacker, you want to try to avoid that from happening to you, and so that's where like all the little special abilities of, you know, your clan leader. Remember that this one, she was able to keep more cards defensively, you know, so like you have more options as far as she was concerned. So you could, you know, you could afford to be a little more audacious, if you will, with your attacks. And so you use those abilities to kind of leverage those other things as well. And that's one of the things, like I said, I'm really excited to see what the other tribes have available to them and what they can do. Because, you know, I played this one several times with my buddies, and we had a lot of fun with it. But it's one of those things, too, where it's like, God, I want more stuff. I want more stuff. You know, with any game with variable player powers, I always want to see more things, right? And, of course, then inevitably, if there's ever going to be an expansion, something that could add to this, it'd be fairly simple to do. You'd have a new clan leader, some new powers, maybe even some new units or whatever from this giant deck, and things like that that just kind of spin things a little bit on the ear, but keep the base of the game, you know, the same, with more cool stuff. Something that I'm always looking forward to. So, ultimately, if you like two-player games, if you like kind of a seesaw battle, if you like those timing mechanisms that you've probably seen in other games, I'd strongly suggest checking this one out. If you have any questions about it, please ask away. I'll be happy to answer those as best as I can. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video, and until next time, I am the Undead Viking, and I'm telling you to have yourself one heck of an awesome day. Alright, bye-bye.